This is a time when we are really being called to evolve. Evolve who we feel we are and who we feel we are when we are in relationships.
Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, She Tells Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at She Tells Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast.
Welcome to the Astro forecast for the week of September 30th to October 6th. We are right smack dab within eclipse season. So the last eclipse we had on September 17th, and the next one is going to be October 2nd. So this is a time when we are really being called to evolve. Evolve who we feel we are and who we feel we are when we are in relationships. So this is a really big time that's testing boundaries. That's testing how much you've learned over this year about yourself, about shining your light, which is Aries, the opposite sign of Libra. And how are you doing in relationships? What relationships do you still have in your life? And are they giving and reciprocal, or are you giving more than you're receiving? This week is going to really test that. So we start off the week on Monday, September 30th, in a fourth quarter phase of the moon in Virgo. So this is the final slivers of the dark side of the moon. Like we are almost at a new moon. That's going to happen on Wednesday. And this dark time of the moon is a time when we are meant to release, meant to really go within and find out what are we taking into this next cycle? What are we releasing from our lives in terms of patterns, in terms of awareness, and where do we want to put our focus on in the coming week? Virgo is about service and wanting to be healthier, daily routines, health habits, organized, analytical. So this is going to be a week for you to be very organized and have a lot of things on your plate. I keep seeing checklists of things being done and everyone kind of going through their weeks, but lots to do. I feel like there's a lot happening right now. On Monday, September 30th, we have a Mars in Cancer trine to Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So what this means, Mars is our energy, vitality, our egoic will to move forward. In Cancer, it is very much, we are motivated by connection, by safety, by your intuition. And Saturn retrograde in Pisces is all about responsibility to our dreams, right? In Pisces, it's about spirituality, connection to the divine, your soul-led purpose and mission. And Saturn is about organizing that. It's about being responsible. So when we have these two planets together, this is a really great supportive aspect on disciplinary action, through emotional resilience, but really we have to be motivated because there's an emotional connection. If someone says do this because, or it's on your list to do because it's part of your job and it's not something that really speaks to your heart, you might find that this week it might feel a little bit hard to do anything about it because you feel responsible for those people around you. Now, with this Cancer energy of Mars, this can also be about taking responsibility within your family. So There can be aspects here. Saturn can also be elderly. So there can be aspects here about taking care of the elderly in your family, being responsible, having emotional stability and long-term goals, even for yourself, not necessarily for your family. And it's a time to harness your emotional strength and to work diligently towards your goals. So this is great goal energy. As we move into a little bit later in the day, we have the Sun conjunct to Mercury in Libra. So these two planets are in Libra. Remember, the sign of Libra is about balance, harmony, finding our ability to be ourselves in relationships and finding that middle ground. Libra is great moderator energy. So when we have Mercury, which is the mind, our thought processing, our speaking ability, the way that we connect with others, and the Sun, which is our vitality, together in the same sign of Libra, this is a really great aspect for harmonious communication, for mediation, moderation, finding win-win situations, great for negotiation. This is a very charming and pleasing energy. This is your thoughts and ideas balanced with fairness, and it's a great time to communicate your intentions and to focus on creating harmony in your interactions. So it's really interesting because every time Sun and Mercury come together, it's considered sort of a seed, like it's planting the seed for something that's a new cycle that's emerging. And we've had the Sun and Mercury come together because of a retrograde 3 times. This is the 3rd time now. So we can look at these dates, and this is why I love astrology so much, because these cycles allow us to look back on our dates and see, how do these things connect? Maybe they do connect for you, maybe they don't, right? It's fine if they don't, but it's really cool to look back and think, what was I doing on these dates? So here are the dates. If you want to take a look back on your calendar and go, is there something that you can sort of see a thread coming through? Because I'll show you what the energy means, but I'll tell you the dates first. So June 14th is the first time that Sun and Mercury came together in Virgo, Virgo being organizing, practical matters, grounded, practical action coming from our self of wanting to be better, wanting to heal, wanting to be of service. Then we had a retrograde Mercury and Sun come together at August 18th and 19th. So if you look back to August 18th and 19th, and it's in the sign of Leo. So there could be something here about the stories that you tell yourself, or about your gifts and talents, or why you're not being of service with your gifts and talents, and where are you holding yourself back, or maybe fearful of judgment. What's your special voice in the world? And then September 30th, where the Sun and Mercury come together in Libra. So when we look at the story that this is weaving, the energy this is creating, for June 14th, what did you become aware of about your service, of what you want to do, of how you like to organize life? Then 18th, 19th was, what is the story you tell yourself that holds you back from being of service? And now September 30th is now, what is the way that you can move forward with aligned partnerships? Maybe you've created friendships and connections that are really lighting that fire for you to go forth and be who you are in the world and not forget who you are. Because we can often give so much of ourselves, especially if you've come from a volatile childhood where you want to be and do and be for everybody at the expense of yourself. So in your childhood, if you depressed your own emotions to please others, you will have a people pleaser tendency to you. So it is actually psychology that we need attachment and authenticity. But when attachment is the word I'm looking for is threatened, then we will leave our authenticity for connection. We need connection and attachment, and more than we need our authenticity to survive. So we will leave our authenticity behind to be in attachment. So this Libra energy is the attachment over authenticity. Aries is authenticity over attachment. So we want both. We need both. Aries and Libra energies are opposite sides of the scale. So we need to have both of those things together for us to balance out how we are meant to live in this world, right? So that is interesting information that I did not have in my notes, but is coming forward now, because we are going to be then moving into, on Wednesday, October 2nd, a new moon eclipse in Libra. So New moons happen when the sun and the moon are at the same degree of a sign, and an eclipse happens when this new moon or full moon is close to one of the nodes of the moon in astrology. So the nodes of the moon in astrology represent karma. So the south node of the moon represents our past, our karmic past as a collective. What have we come through? What have we learned from these life lessons? What is some of the atrocities that we've experienced, and who are we now as a result of that? And then the north node of the moon is where we are going as a karmic destiny, as a collective. Where are we going towards? So depending on what eclipse it is, it will bring up themes in this time or this karmic lesson for us as a collective. So this this is the South Node Eclipse. So on Wednesday, October 2nd, we have a new moon eclipse in Libra on the South Node of the moon. So this happens at 10 degrees of Libra at 2:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Western Mountain Standard Time, and Pacific Time would be 11:50 a.m. So it's making a really potent energy with this, because it is asking us, what are we now ready to leave behind in terms of relationships, of people-pleasing tendencies, of ways that we minimize ourselves? Because the north node of the moon is in Aries. Aries energy is about me, right? It's a spark of life. It's your mission to move forward. It's your egoic will, and we need the ego, right? I was in a course recently where they say, and I learned this from a very young, psychic age, that ego is often known for its acronym of edging God out. And I really hate that acronym, for the reason is that it's not trying to edge out God. It's not trying to do that. It might be, that is partially true, I suppose, because your intuition is God speaking to you. Your soul is God's essence. So that is your connection to the divine. And your ego is your brain, and it's trying to keep you safe. Both love you so much, right? It is God. It's just God in its form of controlling you to make sure that you don't do anything that's not safe. So your ego is trying to make sure that you don't jump off a cliff or walk around naked or give all your money away, right? And it requires, you are required to have an identity in this lifetime, and that's Aries. That's the identity of who are you, right? Because that creates friction. Because if you thought you were like everyone else and everyone is you, then there would be no friction. You wouldn't hate Tabitha's pants, or Karen, who's making a big deal in the lineup. Like, you would be like, you would see that is you too. And you'd be like, oh, Tabitha liked to wear those pants. How awesome. She's expressing her identity. I kind of been seeing the world now through my soul's eyes a lot more as I've been doing this work. And it's phenomenal when you notice all the different ways our soul expresses itself. The hair you would have, and the way you wear your hair, what you wear on your face, jewelry, makeup, facial hair, colors that you wear, the way that you hold your body. Like, those are all decisions that you have made because you feel that this is you. And oftentimes I run into people who wear all black or all gray, or those really like beigey tones that you see at like Reitman's or Susie Shear, or those Chloe, those kind of older women's stores. Not to say that any of those are older women's stores, but they're all this this very bland color palette. And I'm like, if you could see your soul is not bland. Your soul is very colorful. And the more you really step into your soul work and embody your soul, the more you see the world through color. Not to say that, you have to wear color. I have many spiritual friends who are all black, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you are actually such a colorful individual. And if you allow yourself to just be colorful, what would be different in your world? What is the reason you choose to not wear color? I always like to sort of ask that question. There's zero judgment from me. You can wear whatever you want, but I always like to ask, like, oh, you wear all black all the time. Tell me about that. And, my beautiful witchy friends are like, I love wearing black. It's like, yeah, great. Awesome. It's a conscious choice. But for many who are just walking around wearing these very beigey colors, it's not a conscious choice, and it's actually an unconscious choice to hide, to blend in. And my dear, you are not meant to blend in. You're meant to stand out. So This new moon in Libra, not a time, because it's an eclipse, not a time to manifest or try to charge moon water or charge rocks. I mean, it's a dark time of the moon anyways. So typically you're not sending, stuff out into like charging moon water. For those of you who don't know what that is, you can put water out in the light of the moon and have it charge with the energy of the moon, and you can drink it and you can embody that energy and bring it with you in your life. So an eclipse energy is very much like riding a bronco, right? Like a bronco, a bucking bronco, a bull, right? So you're just in this energy of you're just trying to get through. Like, it is very rocky, it's very wild, it's very disruptive energy, and it's not one where you want to try to harness it in any way. So I often say with, eclipse energy is just notice what's changing in your life. Notice what's coming up for you. If you just allow yourself to look around in the spheres of your life, you will notice for you what is changing and what is trying to shift. Eclipse in Libra is about relationships, balance, harmony, and who you are when you are with other people. Can you not minimize yourself? Can you be all that you are with other people and not be scared that you're shining too bright, right? I had this conversation recently where if you shine so bright, you're not blinding people. You're actually inviting them to shine their light. And it's the difference of doing it from egoic will of like, look at me, this is me, people, versus like, I'm inviting you to shine your light with me, right? And that's exactly who I am, inviting you up to shine with me. So this eclipse energy is also aligning with Mercury, suggesting a focus for new ideas and fresh perspectives. Since this is a South Node eclipse, it encourages releasing outdated patterns. Themes emerging now will gain clarity over to the full moon in Libra on April 12th, 2025. So just notice now what's coming up in your life. You might want to journal. I like to leave a little post-it note or put a little note in my calendar and see what happens on April 12th, 2025, because it'll be a 6-month full cycle from new moon to full moon at that time. And then Friday, October 4th, we have Mercury in Libra is forming an inconjunct to Saturn. An inconjunct means that it is a 150-degree angle. So there's a need for adjustment here between this energy of the mind and being responsible to others. And because Saturn's in Pisces, the image that I just got was where you want to help. Libra is such a helper, such an intelligent energy, and people are like, no. It's almost like you're giving advice to someone who's not inviting it. So really be witness to where you are feeling tension in your life, to be responsible, but that person isn't wanting to have your responsibility, is not inviting you to help them, but you want so desperately to help them. This energy reminds me of my teenagers, where I often will say, hey, would you like me to help you with that? And they will often say no. I was like, I know how to do that. And they'll say no. And I have to be quiet, which is one of the hardest things as a parent, because they're not willing to accept my help, right? When they're little, it's still, you have to be very patient. And I think it's the same as they're older as well. But now they're in a stage where they can really hurt themselves. No, that's not true. They could hurt themselves even as they're younger. It's hard because you see these beautiful young humans making these mistakes. And I just always think in my heart, this is going to make them who they are. This is going to help them to learn hands-on. And knowing human design, my youngest has a 3, which is learning through trial and error in his profile. So I know they will always have to learn through doing. And me trying to support them with advice or helping them with information that I have personally experienced is not welcome or is not taken in because it's not felt knowledge. So there's people in your life who need to embody wisdom because they need to experience it. Like, it's felt knowledge versus heard knowledge, right? I happily will hear knowledge from others, knowing that will shortcut me to where I need to go. But I also don't have a 3 in my profile. So it's not something that I'm okay to learn from other people, but there are certain people in the world who need to learn by themselves from the doing and experience of it. And the benefit of that is embodied wisdom. So there's no bad or worse for any of this. It's all neutral. But noticing on this Friday, October 4th, especially where you want to help people and they are not wanting your help. Okay, so there's a day for misunderstandings today, really embodying clear communication and navigating conversations with patience and avoiding forced resolution. I feel like I need to say that again. Avoiding forced resolution. Also on this day, we have Venus trine to Saturn in Pisces. This is a really beautiful experience of depth in relationships and wanting to form long-lasting connections, deep commitments, and approaching with honesty and sincerity. So this is going to really help with that in conjunct, but it's also not going to help because we want so badly to support. Again, going back to the experience of the teenager, is that you want to help them and you love them so much. That Venus is what we love and value, and in Scorpio, like, so deeply love these kids and we're so responsible for them, and they're like, no. Right? And you have to sit back and sit with yourself and go, okay, I see you, mama. It's all right. They're going to be okay. You've taught them well, and really just trust in them. Right? And what we don't want to go towards is worry, because worry is a waste of energy. Right? Worry is, my mom, there's a saying, I can't quite remember it now, of course, because I'm on the mic, but it's about like throwing it into a well, and like it never does anything. There's no positive benefit to worry. It's an illusion of control, and it's an energy leak in your brain and your body. And instead, the antidote of worry is trust. Trust trust in the responsibility of others. Trust that you have given them the tools and tactics and strategies that they need, and trust if they need you, they will come to you. Just, you have to trust, because worry comes along. I have a very good friend of mine that's going through a medical diagnosis right now, and I noticed myself moving into worry, and instead I trust. I send healing, I send angels, I send all that I can do for her, that what is meant to be will be. Right? So embody trust, and I pull in guides and spirit to help with that, because worry is not going to change anything. It really doesn't. It's just an energy leak. Also on this day, a very minor aspect, but something to think about, is we're going to end this year with a Mars retrograde. So Mars is our passion, our vitality, our egoic will to move forward, and it's our it's our ego, right? It's how we want to move through the world. And Mars is entering retro shade on this day, which is 17 degrees of Cancer. So this is a time now. Mars will actually retrograde December 6th, 2024 to February 23rd, 2025. So this is a time, Mars goes retrograde every 18 months. And it's a time when it's urging us to discover, why do we want what we want? Why are we motivated the way we are motivated? What is really driving you? And I think, isn't it so beautiful that the universe builds this in for us humans? Because we are so addicted to the go, right? We are so addicted to achievement and achieving to receive and going forward in life, and just doing all the doing stuff, right? Versus this Mars retrograde period between December 6th and February 23rd is going to be a time of deep introspection about why we want what we want. And in Cancer, actually, I'm not too sure if it's actually going to be in Cancer, but it is going to start to slow down, which is about, I have to look that up, but Cancer now is about the family and deep roots and foundations to who you are. So it's already starting. It will go over these degrees again, in the retrograde period. So just noticing how you are feeling, reflecting on how you assert yourself emotionally and establish boundaries. And take note of any patterns or conflicts that arise, as they will be important during the retrograde. So really reflect on your boundaries and emotional assertiveness. This is required now, because what we're moving into in 2025 cannot have your people pleaser tendencies getting in the way of your purpose, your mission, and shining your bright light. It just cannot. And it requires healing. This is not something you can just think yourself out of. It requires doing in the moment. So when your mom calls you for Thanksgiving dinner and you know that somebody's going to be there that you don't want to see, how do you handle that? Right? Can you go and hold your boundaries with the person? Or are you able to mitigate conflict and talk about things? Or maybe there's no conflict resolution available at this time. So what do you do in those moments then? right? It's the real time doing. We can talk all about these things, but it's in the moment. How do you handle them? And that is what is going to be a big theme for the rest of this year. On Sunday, October 6th, we have Mercury square to Mars. So this is whenever we have a square, we have tension or conflict. And so Mercury is our mind and Mars is our egoic will to move forward. And the mind is in Libra, which is so intelligent. It's an air sign, and it's always thinking about how can we get what we want together, because it's in Libra. And Mars is in Cancer, so it can be very sensitive, emotionally sensitive during this time. So this is creating a potential for tension between your thought processes and your emotional actions. This is triggers personified, y'all. So disagreements and impulsive reactions may occur, especially related to home and family matters. It is essential to find a balanced approach to communication and avoid escalating conflicts. Really sitting inside yourself with what is happening here. Really being in awareness that when my dad gets mad about something, how do I react to that? How do I feel? What is that bringing up in my past in me? And can I stay present and witness what this is trying to teach me? Right? What did my younger self not hear? What does my younger self really need right now? Because whenever we get triggered back into anger or into shame or guilt or any of the reactions that become explosive, or we say things that we don't really mean, we're reacting from a place of the past. Because if you were truly neutral, you wouldn't have that reaction, right? So it's interesting, how can you get to neutral? And if there is something here that needs to be healed, or just a conversation that needs to be had, it would be a good idea to have that conversation earlier in the week, not necessarily now. So I would choose a better day, not over this weekend, actually not even earlier in this week, because Mercury is in conjunct. So there's a lot of misunderstandings happening this week. Not a great time to talk things out in a way that to try to get deeper resolution. Now, in every square, there's also power. So there's an opportunity here to use this energy in a different way to really get to the heart of and speak to ways that you have need more healing. So getting deeper into your triggers and even writing a story about it or channeling that into something where you're speaking to a therapist about it, that would be really, really helpful for you during this week. And then lastly, Sunday, October 6th, we have the Sun in conjunct to Saturn. This is, again, sort of out of sync, right? This energy needs an adjustment between our vitality and our responsibility. So we can feel that there's a disconnect between personal expression and deeper emotional needs. Maybe people don't receive us in the way that we want to be received. This aspect may bring up challenges in achieving balance between self-expression and responsibility. It's a day to adjust expectations, to seek a harmony through flexibility. So, my friends, this week is a time of relationship stuff coming up, triggers coming up. And the reason why they're coming up is for you to see it, to heal it within, right? So if there is a conflict between, let's say, you and your dad, going to your dad and saying, I demand an apology here, and your dad's saying, piss up a rope, like that's not going to help anything. I always say to my clients, the apology is not needed to heal. What is needed within is the feeling of holding your younger self, of being with that part of you that feels hurt with this, because inherently every situation is neutral. I learned that in my coaching designation. And I remember like really hashing it out with my coach, because I was like, how is it neutral when somebody has done something mean to you? She goes, the mean thing is actually neutral. You're just painting it negatively, right? It just happened, right? If someone came up to you and called you a bad name, a name, if you were not triggered by the name. So an example of this is my husband hates the word jerk. So if you go up to him and call him a jerk, he'll trigger. Right. And I remember sitting with him going, why, like, that's such a weird name. It's something that you use in elementary school. Why does that trigger you? And when we sat with it and I kind of got him to go deeper, because he was like, I don't know. And I was like, it turns out that his dad used to call people that he didn't like a jerk when he was little. So in his mind, a jerk is somebody his dad doesn't like, and he loves his dad so much. So for him, he doesn't really quite understand that. But as we started to externalize it, he went, oh, that's why. You come up to me and call me a jerk. I'm like, Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. I'd be curious, right? I go to curiosity versus judgment because it doesn't affect me. But if you said something that really hurt my heart or something I was really sensitive about, I would react differently because that does have part of my programming from my past involved with it. So the more that I externalize that and I sit with those parts of me that are triggered by that, there's a wound. A trigger is a wound underneath that hasn't been met. It's an unmet need. And so can you sit with your own unmet need and give that to yourself so you're not expecting anyone else to do that? So you are whole and perfect in any situation you go to. And so you're never offended because nothing is offensive. Something to think about. Thank you for being here, and I'm wishing you the best week ahead.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.shetellstory.com and follow us on Instagram at shetellstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is She Tells Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legal ease that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of She Tells Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.